So now when we shoot all these asteroids, what would be nice is if we had a score to keep track of. Every time we shot an asteroid, it gave us some amount of points, right? So what we could do is right click in here, go to UI, and say, now we could use TextMesh Pro. TextMesh Pro is great, and more often than not, you want to be using this, but just in this example, just so we can move things a little more quickly, that are a little bit more out of the box, especially if you're using older versions of Unity, we're going to go to Legacy and say Text. Okay, so what this does is gives us a canvas. This would be the same if you're using TextMesh Pro. Most of this is the same. The only thing that changes is which actions you're using if you're using TextMesh Pro. But otherwise, the layout for all this, the way these components work, is mostly the same. So you end up with a canvas here. A canvas is the thing that's going to display all of your 2D UI elements. And then underneath the canvas is where you put all those 2D UI elements. So for example, this text here, if I focus in on it, it's over here in the corner. Okay, so what I want to do is if I drag it up here in the center, you can even see it starting to appear in our actual game view, right? So if I change this color to white just so we can see it a little bit better, here is my text, right? So this text, whether you're using the legacy text or TextMesh Pro, this is the same thing. It basically just comes with a text component. So TextMesh Pro will have its own component over here. Now in TextMesh Pro, you need to get the actions from the ecosystem called TextMesh Pro 2022, and it's written out like this, TMP 2022, like that. So if you search that package in the ecosystem, you get some actions in there, and there's one called TextMesh Pro text set UGUI text. Okay, and that's the action that you want to use for TextMesh Pro. The one that we're going to be using is just simply UI text set text, right? Because we're using the legacy stuff. So for us in here, this will be our score. So we could just put 0 for now. And what I want to do is, you can see if I zoom in here, see how 0 is all the way off to the side. So I can go to this alignment, say center it, and now it's right in the center of this box. And that's just kind of depending on where you want to put things on your screen. Now another thing, so I could put it up here if I want it to be absolutely centered and put my score up there. But the thing that changes is your canvas by default will scale with the screen size and shape. So you'll see right now that we have free aspect on our game display here, right? So if I stretch this out and shrink it, you'll see that this white box right here is representative of our canvas, and this is shrinking and scaling with our canvas. You see that it's actually going to the same shape of it. So the thing that you want to be aware of is that as you're sort of designing where your UI elements go, you want to just be cognizant of things changing shape. A catch-all solution for this that I find is one of the easiest ways to account for things staying within the bounding box of your canvas is to select your canvas and go to the UI scale mode, change it to scale with screen size, and change this to 1920 by 1080 just as a placeholder, like a reference resolution, because this is a common resolution and aspect ratio. And the screen match mode, you could change it to expand. And so now what's nice about this is that it'll always expand to that. But you just have to make sure that your game display is in either 16 by 9 or 1610. So now what's cool is this will always stay where we want it. It's a little small now, so what I'm going to do is change the font size and the actual size of the text. So we'll say that the font size is 35, and we'll change this width to something like 600 by 450. Okay, and let's really change this font size up like that. Okay, let's say maybe 50, like that. 80 seems okay. Change the height down, something like this. Okay, and I could move it right here. So this will be our score. I could name this object to score text. Now on our game, we can add a new component, new FSM, and we're going to call this one score. So I'm hitting edit so we can edit our score. And in here, this is where we can set up the logic for adding points and then setting the score text. Now, how do you get points? Well, if we go over to our asteroids, you can open up any one of these because we're going to be just editing the template that all of them use. Select this, and then over here on our asteroid template, before we destroy itself, we can do two things: set event int data, and then a send event. Okay, we're going to do these two things back to back. Now, what's happening here is that when you send events, you can also send little pieces of information with them. And so one of the types of information you can send is an int, a number. And so what we could do is we can send some points with this event. And then on the other side of wherever that event is received, the points will also be received and can be added to some value, and we can update the text on our screen. Okay, so the set event int data, we could just put in something by hand like this, 10, but I want to make a new variable, so we'll call this one points, and then we'll edit the variable, and we'll say that by default it's 10. Okay, so it'll same thing pretty much, but this will let us change things later, or this will let us sort of scale things dynamically later if we wanted to. So this points, that's the int data that's going to be sent when this event sends off. Now, the event that we're going to send, the event target that we want to send to, is going to be broadcast all, and that just sends out everywhere in the game, anyone who's listening who has the transition of whatever this event that we're going to make is called, right? Like, so for example, if we put hit by bullet, anywhere that is currently in a position to receive the hit by bullet event will fire off that transition on their end, right? We're not going to do hit by bullet. Instead, we're going to do a new global event called add points. Okay, so anybody listening for add points will receive that event, and they're also going to receive this int data with it. Okay, so I'm going to say exclude self just so this doesn't do any unnecessary work, right? Just send it out to everybody else. So we're sending this 10 int points data, and we're broadcasting all to anyone who's listening to this add points event. So that means that now what we could do is come back over here, go to our game, and on score, we can right click in here, add global transition, custom events, add points. So now this will be always listening for that add points event, and this transition will send off to our state where we can add points. Okay, now in here we want to get event int data, right? So this is sort of receiving the information that was packaged into that little event. So we could get whatever came in that little event. We can get whatever came packaged up with that event and store it in a new variable that we'll also call points. Okay, and then what we could do is do an int add, and what we could do, and then we could say that we have a new variable called score, and we're adding these points to it. Okay, so now this should fire off every time we destroy a asteroid, and then this value should get added to. So let's keep an eye on that really quick. All right, so if I fly around here, if I shoot that, boom, adds points. Look at that, 10. And I shoot that one, adds that. And look at our score go up, 20. And as I shoot more of these, look at that, 50 points, 60 points. Okay, so this is working, right? 130 points so far. Now all we got to do is display those points. So when you add points, let's say that it finishes doing that, and then it comes here to a new state where we say display points. Okay, and what we're going to do is set text. Okay, so UI text set text, and we're going to say or specify game object our score text. And the text we're going to set, we're going to hit this little equals button, so we could use a variable, right? Because we have this score that we want to display. And in here, you'll see that it's not here. Our points isn't here. But if we go to this convert submenu, it'll convert other variable types into a string of text that we can use. So we can convert our score into text. And that's because there's a difference in variable types. I just want to make sure that you understand this, is that we have variable types over here, right? In our variable menu, whenever we want to create a new variable, we have all these different variable types, right? And so far our points have been int values, right? So these are all int values, right? You can type in numbers here. The thing that it doesn't let you do is if I tried to make an int value that was called my int, and then the value I tried to put in like blah, 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 and I hit enter, it doesn't let me, okay? It doesn't let me put in any type of text. If I put an enter, it'll always go back to 0. It does let me put in numbers though. I could put in that, I could put 777, that's fine, but I can't put in anything else, okay? If they're very different and they don't like, and they're not sort of processed the same way, what we have to do is this little convert option. Now, if you ever want to convert something that doesn't, if you're ever using an action that doesn't have this little convert option in it, you can always search for actions that do the conversion for you. So you can also convert int to string. You know, you could do this sort of separate step where you say, I want to convert my score into a string variable called score, and then like, it says this name already exists, so you might put underscore string, right? So it's like, okay, this is the same thing, but I know it's being sort of converted as a string value this time. Okay. And the cool thing about this, though, is that it lets you set a format for this, because you might want your score to have zeros preceding it. So if you have 10 points, it looks like this or something, right? Or maybe you only want it to go up to triple digits and you want it to be like that. Or maybe you want it to come out exactly as however many digits it is, right? So depending on whatever it is that whatever your sort of design preferences are, this format option in the convert action might give you some better options. For now, I'm going to say that this is my format, just so it gives us a nice big string of zeros to imply that we can get a much higher score, right? Kind of entices the player to try harder, right? And then so the text I'm going to say is our score string instead, right? So if we press play, right, look at that. Okay, you can see now. That's how it works. Okay. Also, just a really quick side note, I'm going to say that our spaceship shoots too slow. So our shoot, this little 0.5 thing, nonsense. Let's change it to 0.1. Okay. Now we could really rack those points up. All right. We'll do some more tightening up as we go along, because even these asteroids are moving pretty slow right now. And when the smaller ones spawn, they need some more. They need some more speed too, so they kind of blow up away from things.